Hello, and welcome back to Live Free Legal. I'm Tiffany Lesnik, family law and domestic violence attorney, and I help women navigating divorce, custody, and post separation abuse understand the law so they can stop being controlled and start being strategic. Before we begin, this video is for legal education purposes only. It is not legal advice. Family law varies state by state. If you need specific advice to your situation, consult with a qualified family law attorney in your area. Nothing in this video creates an attorney-client relationship. Today, we're talking about something that often triggers the biggest fight in divorce: alimony. What is it? Why you may be entitled to it? Why he fights it? And why so many women give up and regret it later. Let's break it down. So, what is alimony? Alimony, also called spousal support or post-separation support, sometimes maintenance, depending on the state that you live in, is financial assistance paid by one spouse to the other after separation or divorce. Marriage is an emotional relationship, but it's also an economic partnership. When you marry, you combine income, debt, retirement, labor, sacrifice, and career decisions. If one spouse becomes economically dependent because of how roles were divided, the law recognizes that imbalance. In many states, including North Carolina, where I practice law, courts evaluate whether one spouse is dependent, whether the other spouse is supporting, and whether that supporting spouse has the ability to pay. They will also look at the standard of living during the marriage, the length of the marriage, the age and health of both parties, contributions to the household, access to retirement and assets, and in some states, marital misconduct. Alimony exists to correct economic imbalances created during the marriage. It is not a gift, it is not revenge, it is not punishment. It's financial restructuring after a legal contract ends. And yes, marriage is a legal contract. So I mentioned the word marital misconduct. In the spirit of coercive control, what does that mean? Marital misconduct matters in many states. Not every state considers fault in alimony, but many do. In North Carolina, for example, marital misconduct can significantly impact whether alimony is awarded. Let me give you some examples of marital misconduct. It may include adultery or illicit sexual behavior. It may include abandonment. And when we use the word abandonment, we mean completely disappearing without justification or legitimate purpose. Abandonment is a word that abusers throw around a lot to threaten you. But if you are in an abusive relationship and you are leaving that marriage because of abuse, that is not abandonment. Abandonment is when you pack your bags, go to Hawaii, and you're never heard from again. You basically are just leaving the family for your own purposes, just because you want to. Okay? So just want everyone to understand the difference. If you have legal justification for leaving a marriage, that is not abandonment. So constructive abandonment, you're in the home, but he's emotionally checked out. He's not acting loving towards you. He's not affectionate. He doesn't help around the house. He's not contributing to finances. There is an imbalance. It feels like you are living alone, even though you aren't in a marital relationship because you've been constructively abandoned. Cruel or barbarous treatment, so abuse, right? Physical abuse, sexual assault, rape, things of that nature. Indignities that make life intolerable. That would be ongoing humiliation, degradation, coercive control, emotional and verbal abuse, excessive use of alcohol or drugs, and financial misconduct or dissipation of assets. Maybe he has a gambling problem or an addiction issue, or maybe he's controlling the finances and won't allow you to spend any money. He's hiding away those assets or those finances. Now, here is something important for you to know. Domestic violence can absolutely qualify as marital misconduct in some states. And coercive control can fall under indignities or cruel treatment. So if you've endured threats, surveillance, financial restraint, intimidation, degradation, isolation, or physical violence, or emotional violence, sexual violence, these behaviors are not just relationship issues, they may matter legally. And in some states, misconduct can either increase alimony, bar a supporting spouse from receiving it, or significantly influence the court's decision on how much to award or how long to award it, which is another reason he fights so hard, because misconduct findings create leverage shifts for you. Now, in some states, if you've engaged in marital misconduct, that might minimize your ability to receive alimony. So, that is something also to be mindful of. If you have had an affair or engaged in other types of misconduct, that might be a bar for you to receive alimony. So, it's very important if you're in an abusive relationship and it's causing you to act in ways that you later regret, it is better to leave that relationship sooner than later so that he doesn't start to build evidence against you that might hurt an alimony claim later on. So let's address the emotional block many women have. I don't want his money. I'll figure it out. I don't want to look greedy. Alimony is not about taking something that isn't yours. It's about recognizing that your unpaid labor had economic value. If you've raised children, managed the household, moved for his career, supported him through school and his education, put your education on hold or your career on hold to support him, supported him through advanced training, or worked in his business without compensation, you helped build his earning capacity, and the law recognizes that. Economic abuse is one of the most common patterns in coercive control marriages. Alimony interrupts that pattern. It gives you stability, and stability creates power for you. Now, let's be honest. The first thing he's going to do is come after the kids, right? But the second thing he's going to do is he is going to come after the money or fight for the money. And that's because alimony represents an ongoing obligation to him, loss of financial dominance for him as a controller, court oversight, reduced leverage for him, and increased leverage for you. If he controlled money during the marriage, alimony feels like a loss of power. He may suddenly reduce his income to avoid having to pay you the full amount that you're entitled to. He may claim that you're underemployed and ask the court to impute income to you. He may hide business revenue. He may transfer assets. And he may delay litigation to exhaust you. This isn't always about affordability, it's about control. And understanding that keeps you emotionally steady. I want to talk about something that I see very often in my cases working with women who are victims of domestic violence. Many victims of domestic violence waive alimony because they just want to be done. They say, I don't want to fight. I can't take another court date. I want him out of my life. I do not want to be financially tied to him. And I understand that exhaustion. Litigation fatigue is real. But here are some of the risks of waiving alimony too quickly. You may underestimate how long financial recovery takes. And you may overestimate how quickly you can re-enter the workforce. If you haven't worked in a number of years because he hasn't allowed you to, or you've been a stay-at-home parent, it's going to take you some time to get reestablished into the workforce where you're making enough money where you can financially support yourself. You may not account for health insurance loss. You may not account for health-related issues. What if you get sick? You're not expecting that. What if you end up getting cancer or you have a heart attack and you're unable to work? Let's face it, we're not getting any younger, right? Our likelihood to increase our vitality and energy and our ability to earn over time is more likely to decrease than it is to increase. You may not consider retirement deficits, He may have a retirement account with $300,000 to $500,000 in it that he can live off of when he is much older and much more tired. You may not have that to fall back on. And you also may not factor in inflation or the cost of living. And you also may discover hidden income you didn't know existed later on. Once alimony is waived in many states, it cannot be revived. It is permanently gone. You cannot go years later and say, I changed my mind. You can't go back. I have seen women waive support to get peace only to struggle financially for a decade. It's done anything but give them peace. Temporary emotional relief can create long-term financial vulnerability. And here's the irony. The same man you want to be free from may be counting on your exhaustion. Financial pressure is a settlement strategy. Do not make permanent financial decisions from temporary emotional overwhelm. So, what's a strategic approach? If alimony is on the table, we want to do some things. We want to get full financial disclosures. We want to demand accurate income documentation. We need to understand the tax implications, and we do that by consulting with an accountant or a CPA. We want to consider the duration of alimony carefully. So we want to think about how much longer is it going to be before I retire? Or if I'm going to go back into the workforce, how long is it going to take me to really get established with benefits? Or maybe I'm going to go back to school. How long is it going to take me to earn that degree and get back into the workforce in that degreed profession? Or another consideration is if you have children, how long is it going to be before they graduate from high school and you have the ability to focus on your career 100%? You also want to evaluate whether or not you want a lump sum of alimony upfront versus a monthly amount. I generally recommend to my clients if they can receive a lump sum of alimony, that is usually the safer course to take. Why is that? Because you have your money at one time and you have control over it. Once it has been delivered to you, it is yours. You can decide what bank to put it in, what accounts to invest it in, and it is yours. Versus if it's a monthly amount, you have to deal with his excuses. I've lost my job, or I'm not making as much money anymore. And so now I have to modify or decrease the amount I'm going to pay. You may have to keep up with him not paying you on time, playing games with his monthly payments, or there's also the possibility that he could die. And if he dies prematurely, your alimony payments are probably going to end. So having everything up front in a lump sum is usually more beneficial to women because they can have control over the money. That being said, a lump sum at the very beginning of an alimony term is usually going to come at a discount. So you usually have to take a smaller amount as a lump sum than you would a monthly sum that you take over the course of years. However, if it's guaranteed, you can invest it and try to get back some of that as an investment. I still generally recommend to my clients to take that lump sum if they can get it. It's worth not having to deal with the hassle of him. You want to think long term, not just immediate escape. Freedom is not just physical separation. It is also financial sustainability. We have to be thinking about our long-term financial futures. So let me say this clearly. You are not greedy for asking for alimony. And if you cannot afford to make ends meet on a monthly basis without his assistance, you probably need some form of support. You can also receive alimony in addition to child support if you have children. You are not being vindictive. You are asking the legal system to recognize your investment in a shared life with this person. And in high conflict or abusive marriages, financial stability is often the foundation of true freedom. If this helped you, share it. If you are navigating post-separation abuse and need structured support, join us inside Live Free Legal, where we walk through financial strategy, documentation, and court preparation step by step. Again, this video is educational only and not legal advice. Seek counsel in your state before making legal decisions. I'm Tiffany Lesnik, and here at Live Free Legal, we don't just survive the system, we learn how to stand in it. Remember to like us, subscribe, give us a thumbs up. We will see you next week, 7 p.m., for our next webcast as we continue to discuss support and coercive control. Check out more about us in the description below. See you next time.